It's the 30th of November 1939. You're 22, lying in the snow of the Karelian forest, so cold your rifle bolt has frozen shut. Coming down that road is the largest army on Earth. 500,000 men, thousands of tanks. Behind you, a nation of 3.5 million with 30 tanks total. Joseph Stalin has been told this will take 2 weeks. Stalin's problem was geography. The Finnish border sat barely 20 miles from Leningrad, his second city. In an age of long-range guns, that was a knife held at its throat. So he made Finland an offer. Move the border back, lease us a base, hand over these islands. The Finns refused. A country that surrenders its front door soon loses the whole house. On November 26th, shells fell on a Soviet village. Moscow blamed Finland, whose guns weren't even in range. 4 days later, with no declaration of war, the Red Army crossed the border. On paper, this wasn't a war. It was an execution. The Soviets brought thousands of tanks and aircraft. The Finns had almost no anti-tank guns and an air force you could count on 2 hands. But the Finns had 2 things no spec sheet shows: the forest, trackless and roadless, and the winter of 1939, cold enough to freeze a careless man to death in his sleep. They grew up in it. Finnish soldiers moved on skis, dressed in white, and vanished into the tree line. To a Soviet conscript from a warmer land at 40 below, they were ghosts. The main blow fell on the Karelian Isthmus, straight at Finland's heart. Defending it was a belt of bunkers and trenches named for the old baron commanding the army. 72 years old, once a general for the Russian Tsar, Mannerheim understood one grim truth: he could not win this war. He could only make it cost more than Stalin would pay. Soviets attacked by the book, tanks first, straight ahead. But the tanks came without their infantry. And a tank without infantry, in close forest, is a blind steel box. Finnish soldiers let them roll past, then rose from the snow with bottles of burning petrol. When Molotov claimed his bombers dropped food, the Finns named the firebomb a Molotov Cocktail to go with it. In the north, whole Soviet divisions crawled down single forest roads, strung out for miles. To the Finns, that wasn't a threat, it was an invitation. They called the tactic Motti. At Martha Usalmi and along the Rate Road, they cut 2 entire divisions into frozen, starving pockets and destroyed them, capturing the tanks and field kitchens they so badly needed. For the men trapped in those pockets, it was a nightmare with no exit. No food, no fuel, an enemy they could hear on skis but never see, and out in that white silence was one man they feared most. His name was Simo Häyhä, a small, quiet farmer with an old rifle and no scope, because glass glinted and fogged. He packed snow in his mouth so his breath wouldn't show, and he waited. In about 100 days, he is credited with some 500 kills. The Soviets shelled the woods and sent snipers to hunt him. None brought back an answer. They called him the White Death. By February, Stalin had seen enough. The clumsy attacks stopped. Under General Timoshenko, the Red Army did the one thing the Finns couldn't answer. It concentrated and brought its guns. A bombardment so vast that some sectors took more shells in a day than the Finns could fire in a month. The line that had held all winter began to break. Finland was running out of men. On March 13, 1940, the guns fell silent. Finland lost ground, but kept its freedom, while the Red Army was humiliated before the world. And in Berlin, a man named Hitler watched and drew a fatal conclusion.